this is the art of self-care. And there's little Michelle. So little Michelle was the daughter of two blind parents. I grew up back east. I'm in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We grew up on welfare, or I grew up on welfare. My parents didn't work when I was young. My brother suffered with cancer intermittently throughout his life and passed away when he was 18. I was someone who was very lucky to go to a very arts-rich and arts-infused school. I went to Harvard, where I created my own major in theater, child psychology, and education. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of that later. But really, it was sort of through the arts that I was able to create myself at age 19, and then again recently at age 41. So what I have to share with you is simple. It's simple and yet complicated. It's simple because it's about releasing the negative stories that get in our way, from being the best version of ourselves. Releasing the narrative of when I have enough money, or when I have more time, or when I meet my husband, or when I have a baby, or when I buy a house, or when I, or when we get to the weekend, or when I get to summer vacation. And what about just showing up right now in this exact moment for your life? And finding all the blessings and all the difficult things, and greeting all of them with love and acceptance, in order to live a richer and more profound and more a life filled with presence. I use the word lit up a lot. I feel like I'm living a life that's lit up. I think about a lamp and it's been turned on. Is your light bulb turned on? So I want to give a little bit of a background also. The reason I've been teaching the art of self-care is because I made a lot of major changes in my life in the last 8 years. So in 2010, I left my position. I was teaching in a neighboring district. I was the drama teacher in Hillsborough. And I quit my job and I told everyone, I'm going to become a leader in arts education. And everybody said, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, I don't know. I have to go figure it out. So I took a huge leap of faith by quitting one of the first jobs I had that actually had a salary and retirement and health insurance and all those things that I sort of neglected earlier in my teaching artist life, and took a huge risk and a huge leap of faith. And then I applied for jobs that I didn't get, so I founded my own nonprofit, which was another huge leap of faith. Later, I left my marriage. Now, I'm not recommending that you all quit your jobs and leave your marriages and start nonprofits. That's not what I'm here to talk to you about today. But I am recommending that if you do take big commitments, set intentions and make big commitments to yourself, that it will be transformative for your life. So today we're going to have some real talk. I'm inviting you to disrupt the narrative. Although I'm now wanting to maybe get rid of the word disrupt, because it's really just about shifting the narrative or creating a new narrative. But the narrative that I'm talking about is one of shame and blame, of giving other people your happiness. If you would just change your behavior, then I'll be happy. Or my boss is driving me nuts, or my husband is driving me nuts, or my kids are, upsetting me, or putting your happiness out externally, giving it to someone else. Because what I've had to learn the really difficult way, and I will say this as a recovering codependent, it was really difficult for me to learn that other people don't own my happiness, that it's all within. And then I had to forgive myself, too, for all of the ways and the stories that I told about myself that weren't serving me. So actually, this was a teacher in Burlingame, the first year that we were here, who wrote this on the cover of their journal. It says Denise. So I don't remember who Denise was, but you do? She's at Lincoln, perfect. So I got to give her credit. She wrote launch and learn on the cover of her journal. And I just love that expression, launch and learn. I'm inviting you to launch and learn today about your own self-care. And it's really an invitation to commit to yourself so that you can live a great story. I've seen these in several different cities just on street posts. And I love it. This idea of we all want to live a great story. So, and you want to live a great story so that someday you're leaving a legacy for your loved ones, your children, your family, your friends, to remember you by. So there's 3 tenets. The first one is practice. Those of you who know me know my practice is art journaling, and that I build and create art journals obsessively. I'm just like constantly art journaling. So this is the opening page of one of my books. The opening pages are often filled with a whole bunch of information, but your practice may not be art journaling. Your practice might be some sports, cooking, gardening, fishing, sailing, anything at all. But to do your practice regularly, whatever it is that fills you up, that nourishes you. Not the, oh, I'll have time for that later. Make time for it now. Make time for it every day if possible, but definitely make time for it several times a week. Because if you're not filling yourself up, then how are you able to, give to your students, give to your family? Teachers are some of the people I think that are just constantly giving all the time, and we forget to give to ourselves. But then how can you give to everyone else if you're not filling up yourself first? The second part of the real personal transformations around mindfulness. I have a mindfulness practice. I don't meditate more than like 5 minutes in the morning when I get up. I don't have 30 minutes or 40 minutes or an hour. Or I don't go on 10-day Vipassana silent retreats. But just like, maybe, I don't even think I could actually, because they don't let you read or write. I'd have to be able to read or write. But 5 minutes in the morning just to ground myself before I wake up my children and get ready for school. Pardon? And also, I just practice mindfulness throughout the day. So I use the term being in notice. Mindfulness is like just walking by and being like, wow, the flowers on that bush look really beautiful. Or wow, I walked up to Jane this morning and just said, you look gorgeous. Just noticing and giving someone a compliment. Or wow, this food tastes really good. Just because to me, mindfulness is also really linked to gratitude and practicing both of those as much as possible. And then the third one is ritual. And ritual is kind of like, for me, the combination of the two, the practice and the mindfulness. So, but it could also be other rituals, like I have tea every single morning. Or I have a gratitude ritual where every night before I go to sleep, I go back to the beginning of my day. People in recovery would call this taking inventory. And I remember moments throughout my day, and I tap them on the mattress. So that smoothie was delicious, that phone call with my best friend, the hug I got from my colleague, the compliment from my boss, the crunchy almonds at snack time, whatever it is. And I just go through my day and I tap every single thing that happens. And then I fall asleep and I sleep like a baby. But also then the next day, moment by moment, I'm like, oh, this is a tap. Oh, this is a moment to be grateful. Oh, this is a moment to remember. And so I'm rewiring my brain. I've rewired my brain for abundance. I've rewired my brain for gratitude and for noticing. It's taken a huge amount of commitment and practice. This is not just like, oh, some easy thing. I've been working on this for 8 years. And be good to yourself. I like the airline analogy. You have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you put someone else's on. Otherwise, you're wondering, why can't I breathe? And literally, we're so often wondering, why can't I breathe? And also to remember love. I hesitated to put this into a PowerPoint. I've been delivering this PowerPoint to superintendents and principals and people all over, educators all over the Bay Area. I'm like, no, I'm going to put love in there because love is why we are here. We love the subject we teach. We love the students. We're certainly not here for the money. You all know that. We're here because we believe in the importance of being with children because they're the ones who are going to save the planet. So love is why we're here. And kids think that too. This is from some kindergartners at Creative Arts Charter in San Francisco, sharing our love and kindness through art. That's what they want. They want to show up at school and feel loved. If they don't feel loved, then they're not going to learn. And that we're the tree. We're the roots that help them grow. And then as I've also talked about before, it's about releasing that narrative. Fear is a liar. Marianne Williamson says fear is the absence of love. I'm not saying that fear doesn't show up. I'm not saying that struggle doesn't show up. I'm not saying that pain doesn't show up. They show up, in fact, pretty much every day. But it's about how you choose to respond to them. What I forgot to say earlier with the mindfulness slide, mindfulness is the ability to respond versus react. So what I've had to do, along the lines of the neuroplasticity piece, is I've had to train my own mind about how do I respond to my own thoughts. The thoughts that I'm not good enough, the thoughts that I'm fat, the thoughts that I'm single, the thoughts that I'm less than, whatever they are, the thoughts that I don't have enough money, the thoughts that I have debt, whatever the negative thoughts are, the sadness, the longing, do I stuff them down and pretend they're not there because they're just going to come up even bigger? Versus what I do is I imagine they're like a small child and I give them a little hug, like, oh, come here. I get it. That sucks. You know, like, I'm right here with you. Which leads me to, I believe, my next slide, which is to read a poem to you. And this is a poem by Rumi. And Rumi was a 13th century Persian poet. And this poem is called The Guest House. It's a short poem, but it's one of my favorites. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. I forgot, one of the things I do sometimes when I give this talk is I actually bow down literally on my knees to the crowd before I give the talk. And that's something that's also, I've been literally visualizing when negative thoughts pop up. I've mentally visualized that I'm bowing to them. Tony Robbins says, the smartest people, pain knocks on everybody's door. The smartest people I know are those who invite it in, offer it a seat on the couch and say, what do you have to teach me? Another teacher that I've studied with a lot talks about rupture. I've experienced a lot of rupture in my life. Both my father and my brother died when I was in my 20s. And I didn't cry then because I didn't know how to access it. So when a relationship ended a couple of years, I cried for months. And I was like, oh, this is old pain. This is not about this relationship. That was just opening a can of worms that I hadn't released. But I chose to walk into the pain, and I chose to experience it. I called it my darkness. I chose to walk into my darkness in order to come back out into the light, more authentically and more healed. And then again, of course, as you all know, I'm a huge arts advocate. I live and breathe arts education all day, every day. I wear 4 different hats in that world, and I deeply believe in the importance and the value of the arts. I say that the arts saves lives, and that's why I do this work, but now I'm actually starting to believe that self-love is what saves lives. And that's what has saved my life, is to figure out how to love myself, how to deeply and authentically love myself, not just on the outside, but on the inside, like every day. Brené Brown, who's a famous researcher and talks a lot about shame, she's interviewed thousands and thousands of people, and 85% of them will tell a story in education in which they were shamed. And then a huge percentage of those will tell a story that it was a creative experience. You can't paint, you can't draw, you can't act, you can't sing, you can't dance. Sir Ken Robinson tells that story about you go into a classroom, a kindergarten classroom, and you ask who can paint, everyone raises their hand. Who can sing, everyone raises their hand. Who can dance, everyone raises their hand. Who can act out stories, everyone raises their hand. By the time you get to 8th grade, and then they go up each year, and the numbers decrease and decrease and decrease, and by the time they get to 8th grade, maybe one student will raise their hand. Because something has happened in those 9 years where students all of a sudden believe they're not artists. Pablo Picasso says, everyone is born an artist. The trouble is to remain one when you grow up. But they're all coming in to your classroom as artists. So see them and greet them as artists. And that is how they make meaning in the world as well. And they will show you their meaning through the arts. So as I said earlier, I have an artful journal making practice. So here's like my hand in process. Often what I do is I build an entire book, or I hack an existing book, or I build a book from scratch. So here's a blank page before I write in it. And then I take it everywhere and I write everything in it. All my notes, all my, my speech today, that's an art journal in itself. I'm always building journals. This summer I was lucky, just 24 hours in Stinson Beach with a friend. So this is Tuesday night. Having organized, so this is me building journals from scratch. Having organized, I save every kind of piece of paper possible, hole punched. The next morning or next afternoon, 6 journals. I work fast. I've been doing it for a long time. But again, that's my practice. And I've also been studying mindfulness. When I won the fellowship, I traveled around the country with a colleague who teaches mindfulness. But now I'm doing more of that myself. I've been taking a 12-week online course with an organization called mindfulschools.org. I highly recommend it. They are the thought leaders in mindfulness and education. And one of the things they talked about, I was recently watching one of the online courses, and they talked about the way you stand in front of your students. That if you are truly grounded and at some sort of, have you that sort of inner calm and that inner peace, it helps bring everyone in the classroom who's sort of like agitated or in trauma or frenetic, it helps bring the energy down. And that they said that doesn't matter what curriculum you're teaching, whether it's mindfulness or whether it's math, that literally it's, if you're grounded, it helps the students get centered. But if you're frenetic or you're stressed out, my mom always tells me my own children are my barometers. Your students will reflect back to you. Even if you think you're not showing them something internal that you're struggling with, they will sense it, they will know it. Actually, in those cases, I encourage vulnerability. I encourage saying, you know what, I'm having a really hard day today. Because guess what? It lets them know that they get to have a hard day too, and that it's okay. So mindfulness, this comes from mindfulschools.org, is a combination of present time awareness and equanimity. I remember hearing the word equanimity. I still can't tell you what it means without reading it. But it's mental or emotional composure under strain. And you can see the other qualities: alertness, clarity, stability, ease, momentary acceptance, and non-compulsion. Also, I'm a big, big believer in being the energy that you want to attract. So if you're telling that story, I don't have enough, I don't have enough, I don't have enough, guess what? You don't have enough. Or if you're telling that story, I feel terrible, I feel terrible, I feel terrible, guess what? You feel terrible. But if you tell a different story, if you choose, and it takes a lot of consciousness and a lot of intention, then you start to draw in what you're wanting to attract. And I've definitely been experiencing that. And also, I'm unapologetic about what I desire, and I trust that what I focus on will grow. It's literally, I've heard the expression, what you resist persists. So if you resist something, it's just going to keep coming back. Or if you focus on the problem, you're going to keep experiencing the problem, versus if you focus on the solution. I think in general, our language, the stories we tell are so embedded in there's a problem, but what if we start talking about our dreams, our wishes, our desires? What if we start envisioning, and that's what we're going to get to do today in this workshop, is get to envision and imagine and dream for the things that we want for ourselves. And self-care isn't selfish. It's vital. It's absolutely vital. For when you show up in your classroom every single day, make sure that you're full. Make sure that you are nourished. Make sure that you are restored. I had a teacher last week in this workshop say, okay, a commitment I'm going to make is to eat lunch at work. And I thought, literally, wow. If I don't eat lunch at work, you'll have to peel me up off the floor. Like, that's basic, I need to eat. But people forget to eat because they're working so hard. Don't ignore your body. Drink lots of water. You know this stuff. Drink lots of water. Take a walk. Like, take care of your body and teach the kids to take care of theirs. I'm not going to read you this. I don't like it when people read PowerPoints. But that's my closing message for this part of my time, my talk. So thank you very much for letting me give you my mini TED Talk.